Hey guys, Metal War God here, and I have a new segment called the 70s Revisited, which entails all 70s artists, CDs, vinyl, cassettes. If I have 8 tracks, that I am going to go back and show you what I have in my collection. And I've been wanting to do this quite a while. I'm a huge 60s and 70s fan, and I do buy a lot that I did not have back in them early days when I first started collecting. And so I am going to be starting this segment, probably show you 12 to 13 albums from my collection. I'm going to try to show you the vinyls first. Hopefully I won't repeat. Should be quite an extensive 70s channel here, so I'll have to keep coming back. I'm not sure how often I'll do it, but I'll try to get one up once every couple weeks or sooner. Depends on how busy I am. So first up, the music will always coincide with what the albums I'll be showing. At least one of the artists, if I have the album or CD or cassette or whatever. But first up, what you're hearing right off is a band called Raven. They are out of Terre Haute, Indiana, and as far as I know, they put out one album, and this has been reissued on vinyl, and this is who they are. Kind of a prog rock band, hard rock band, more progressive, but good stuff. As far as I know, only one album. Of course, there are 2 other Ravens, one from the 60s and one in the 80s, but the focus is on this Raven. Of course, this has been reissued on Golden Pavilion Records. Originally, this came out, I believe, in 1976, if I'm not mistaken. 74 or 76, and good stuff. You can go over to Rock and Roll. This is where I picked this up. They may have more copies, but anyway, here's the first one, Raven. Up next, I'll do this first here. I'll get them all on my lap. Here's a band I came across a couple years ago. A lot of these I did not have in my collection, and I want to thank all the archives. Of course, Rock and Roll is one of the main labels I go through. Shadow Kingdom does have reissues of some of these, or they do get them from other distributors. Bob Records is another label. There's one out of Chicago. I cannot quite remember the name, but anyway, next up is a band called Rog and Pip, and the album Our Revolution. 70s based hard rock, and I'll kind of give you a little go through on this if I get it out. Okay. Anyway, I believe this originally came out about early 70s, 71, 72, and this is the gatefold here. Does have a booklet that comes with it. Kind of has the history of the band. Some of these members came from the Sorrows and They are out of England originally, but mostly from the Sorrows. Originally they were formed in '69, but this band later progressed into the '70s as Rog and Pip. And if you ever get a chance and you find this, do pick it up. Like I say, this is on, let's see here. It is on purple vinyl, and it is on, actually it's on Rise Above Records. So if you're familiar with Rise Above Records, we'll pick it up. I'm not sure how easily available this is, but if you can find it, do so. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Up next, a band out of Canada, all female. They put out 2 albums, a band called Bertha. This is their self-titled release from 1972 on ABC Records. This is a gatefold. There's back. Cover's not in bad shape. If anybody is looking for any of these, I can't get these yet. I know a place in Fargo that I can pick up this. This one I see quite often. The other one I do not, but if anybody is interested, want me to pick them up, this, let me know in the comments below. So here's Bertha, all female, and good stuff. Just kind of more of a bluesy hard rock female fronted band, and definitely worth the check. They all sing on it, so anyway, good stuff. Up next, band from 1972, band called Bulldog. I believe this is the only album they put out or released on MCA Records. Kind of a, well, they're hard rock, but not a real heavy hard rock. They're kind of a lighter hard rock band, but still very good stuff. They are a 5-piece. And I don't see this very often. I think I've seen this one other time. Cover is in very good shape. A little bit of ring wear down here, but other than that, the vinyl's in good shape. So anyway, here's Bulldog. Up next, a classic. I remember when I first heard this band back in the 70s, sitting over a friend's house in the basement. The 2 friends were going to college at the time. I was a little bit younger. I was still in high school. These guys were, I think, in their first or second year of college. I think I was a junior at the time, and we had the same love in music, and a lot of it I heard that I loved came from them, and this is one of them. Captain Beyond, self-titled. This is the 3D cover, which is really hard to come by nowadays. I actually came across this last summer, and I couldn't believe the price. It was very cheap, so I picked it up. I do have another version without the 3D cover, but Captain Beyond, this is a classic album, of course. Rod Evans lead vocals, Bobby Caldwell, Rhino, lead guitar, Lee Dorman, slide guitar, and good stuff, of course. Dancing Madly Backwards, 1,000 Days of Yesterdays, intro, and Frozen Over, Astral Lady, Myopic Void. Just a classic album from Captain Beyond. This, of course, was released, I believe, in 1972 on Warner Brothers. They do have 3 albums out. They are actually touring, and Bobby Caldwell is in the band yet. They are doing a mini tour. They are doing some new material, so look forward to that. You can get some demo albums that have been re-released. I do have a couple of those. A couple of them are etched on one side, but anyway, classic Captain Beyond. Up next, a band out of England. I believe they put out 4 albums. Kind of a melodic hard rock band. The band is called Streetwalker, and their album is called Red Card. This came out in 1976. 3 studios and a live album they have. And good stuff here. Trying to think of the song that I'm familiar with that I've heard before, and I think it's Run for Cover. But like I say, they are out of the UK, melodic hard rock. Good stuff though. Check them out if you find them. I do have all their releases. So check them out. A band called Streetwalker. Another classic UK band I grew up with, listening to. One of the first glam bands, along with, of course, Bowie you could consider glam, T-Rex glam. Maybe Sweet was considered glam at times, and I'm talking about Slade and their album Slade, of course. This is an import pressing, and this was released in 1972 on Polydor. Of course, this has the classic tracks, The Whole World's Going Crazy, Goodbye to Jane, Mama We're All Crazy Now, classic stuff. Slade is still actively out there doing some touring. They haven't released any new material probably since the 80s, but I know they are out there doing some stuff. But classic band, glam rock, just some great stuff from these guys. They have a pretty extensive catalog. I think they kind of strayed away from the glam image or the glam style in the 80s, and but of course that album was called Keep Your Hands Off of My Power Supply. I think more of a hard rock driven album, where this is more glammy. Just a classic song from these guys. Here's Slade with Slade. One of my favorite early 70s, or not, mid-70s band. She got her start. She did a solo album. It was called Ruby Jones. That's what she was known as back in the early days, Ruby Jones. I do have her self-titled album. Kind of more of a funky, soul-y hard rock album, her solo stuff. And then later, Jim Dandy found her and invited her to do some backup singing in Black Oak, Arkansas. And of course, I'm talking about Ruby Star. And this is her first album after Black Oak, Arkansas. It's called Ruby Star and Grey Ghost. Fantastic album. I mean, this pint-sized keg of dynamite has such a unique vocal style and range that even today is hard to come by with other female singers. She put out 3 albums, which I will show the other 2 eventually, but this is probably one of my favorites by Ruby Star and Grey Ghost. And if you have not gotten a chance to pick this up or listen to it, do so. One of the classic songs on here is Burning Whiskey. I believe that was a radio staple in the 70s. And of course, Witching Hour. Just a great album, great debut album from Ruby Star and Grey Ghost. So good stuff here. Another one of the early female rockers coming out of actually the 60s. And I'm trying to think of the band. It was her and her sister were in the band, and I have the CDs. I just can't think of the name right offhand. But another pint-sized keg of dynamite that played an absolutely great bass. I'm talking about Susie Quattro. This album came out in 1974 on Bell Records. I think the first couple of Suzi Quatro albums, in my opinion, are the heaviest. Later on, she kind of went more of a pop rock with the hit Tumbling Dice, which was on the radio back in the mid-70s. But this album, I remember the first time hearing this sitting at a friend's place, and we were looking at bags of dope, of course, and he brought this out. He said, "Hey, I got a new album. We're going to crank it up." Put this on, and I heard 48 Crash followed by Glycerine Queen, and it just blew me away. Later on, she did some appearances on Happy Days as Pinky Tuscadero, and she is still out there touring. Definitely an old rocker, still has it, and I'm just glad I picked this up. Check it out, Suzi Quatro's self-titled album. Now this band was influenced by Suzi Quatro, and if you've ever seen or read anything about this band, the Runaways, they definitely praised Suzi Quatro for their sound. They were very high with Suzi Quatro, and Suzi Quatro did know them and helped them out. And this, of course, is Queens of Noise, which came out in, let's see, I want to say 1977, a later album. Of course, the first album was the Runaways with Cherry Bomb, of course. That was their biggest hit early in their careers. And I'm trying to think of, Kim Fowley was their manager, and in my opinion, I think he basically, he took them from nothing and made them into something, but he actually ruined this band, I think, later on by not allowing them to reach their full potential. And of course, members got disgruntled and left. Of course, there are very good musicians in here. Of course, Lita Ford was in here, Cherry Curry, Joan Jett, of course, and let's see who else is in there. God, I can't think of the name. Anyway, The Runaways, another huge album in the early 70s that I followed to late 70s. Great album. Stuff is very, very hard to find, and if you do find it, it is pricey. So I'm looking for Runaways as well. Another band was kind of come out of the late 60s and progressed into the 70s. And talking about trapeze. Early trapeze, of course, has Glenn Hughes on vocals, and I think Glenn was on 3 of the early trapeze albums. These are later trapeze. Of course, this is Hot Wire, which came out in 1974 on Warner Brothers. Of course, this has Mel and Tom Galley. It has Dave Holland on drums, Rob Kendrick on guitar, Pete Wright on bass, and so forth. But they did quite a few albums. You can actively see them out there. Whether they're in good shape, it's hard to say. I do come across quite a bit of trapeze. And I'm looking for, there's one that's very, very rare, hard to come by. It's very pricey. Got the obscene cover. I'm still looking for that. But anyway, trapeze. What did I say? This was 1974. But I think some form of trapeze is still touring out of Texas. I might be mistaken, but I think they are. But if not, if they're not touring, they're probably done. But one time I read that they were doing some stuff. Anyway, here's trapeze. And my last one for the 70's Revisited #1 is a classic Canadian band who I believe put out 8 albums. First 4 are absolutely a must in everybody's collection. I'm talking about Triumph. And this one is Rock and Roll Machine, the Canadian cover on the Attic Records. RCA, yeah, it's on Attic, I do believe. But the US cover is different. And I do have that version as well. Great 3-piece. Of course, trying to think here. Rock and Roll Machine, mainstay. Rick Emmett, Gilmore, and I can't remember all the names. Anyway, classic album. Like I say, the first 4 Triumphs are must. They kind of drop a little bit, but they're still good after the first 4. But this is a classic album from Triumph. I think this is their 2nd or 3rd release. But anyway, good stuff for Triumph. And anyway, guys, that is all I have for this debut of See you next time.